today, the Syrian army has acknowledged that its soldiers have pulled out of the centre of the city of Hama in the heart of the country. The fall of Hama from government hands would represent a huge blow to President Bashar al-Assad, whose forces are still reeling after insurgents seized control of Syria's second city, Aleppo, just last week. The rapid advance by the rebels has surprised experts on Syria. Hama has been in government hands since the civil war began in Syria in 2011, and the front lines have been largely static for years. Well, Wassim Nasr is one of those experts on Syria. He's our terrorism expert as well. He's with me in the studio now. Wassim, what is happening in Hama? Can we say definitively government forces have lost the city?
Definitely, government forces have lost the city, and even HTS fighters opened the prison of the city, and they set free many prisoners. We're gonna look at a map to see how it evolved actually in the last few days. So the blue area is the area that was captured by HTS and the rebels since last Wednesday, and we see that Hama was one of the stops that they had because the government forces in Hama put up a resistance since like 48 hours. We're gonna have a closer look to Hama to see how the fronts were this morning around the city actually, and here it is. So the blue area is the area this morning that was still held, by the rebels, and the purple area is the area held by the regime. And what's interesting in this, that we see that the rebels were stopped north of Hama in Jabal Zain al-Abidin, where there's a big military barracks, and around, because those villages there are loyalist villages, and the explosion down south of Hama is actually the military airport. So the military airport was bombed by HTS drones, and then the most interesting part about this, that they were actually stopped on the M5 because of the huge effort that the Syrian army put on this highway, but they succeeded in making a real military maneuver actually, where they took the city from two sides, from the east and from the west, and actually they closed up on a city, and today all the city of Hama is under the control of rebels as we speak.
And let's talk about the rebel group that is leading this offensive, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or HTS, we sometimes call it in English. It's a jihadist rebel group. They've controlled the province of Idlib, or parts of the city of Idlib, for a long time now. Now, though, they've got lots of new territory under their control. Aleppo, and apparently you're telling us today as well, Hama as well. What kind of challenges will they face governing this much bigger area?
Well, actually, they denounced the global jihad, and we can qualify them as an Islamist rebel group, because you cannot put them on the same level of Al Qaeda or the Islamic State, who wage global terrorism. They want a global caliphate. Actually, HTS wants to put up a fight in Syria to topple President Bashar al-Assad, fight the Iranian and the Russians, and that's the limit of their fight, as they say, as I was told by Julani himself.
That's the head of this group.
Exactly, since I was there like a little bit more than a year now, and I spoke even to their thinkers, their ideologues, and all their focus was on Syria, and telling the world actually that they are out of global jihad. But still, one of the most important issues they have to handle, and we're going to see now a footage, is that foreign fighters that are still in the area of Idlib under their rule. So what they succeeded in doing, and here we are looking at Ansar al-Tawheed, which is a Syrian group, but with foreign fighters, who was sent to the first fronts around Hama yesterday, meaning they still have foreign fighters, but what they succeeded in doing is controlling them. Since Julani killed or ousted those who didn't want to abide by his rule at one time. They even killed the fourth caliph of the Islamic State. They pushed many foreign jihadists to leave the area of Idlib, or they imprisoned them. So up to now, he's being to handle this this part of his group, meaning foreign fighters. And because they have a real military weight, so with their push toward Homs now, for sure they're gonna send other foreign fighters to be like the head of the attack. And we see actually that those fightings in Hama were very hard against the Syrian army, which who put up a resistance. Actually, it wasn't that easy. It wasn't easy as Aleppo was a few days back. So. But one of the most also important part of this relation of this new, let us say, governance, if it's come to reality, is handling issues with other rebel factions, meaning the Syrian National Army, which is directly backed by the Turks, for example, since they went into the fight a little bit late, but also to make a balance with the HTS, because the relation between HTS, Julani, and the Turks is a relation of force. It's not just a relation of he is not submitted to the Turks as other faction, and this will play. It will be very important. And administrating the issue of minorities. Julani from the first day addressed the Christians in Aleppo. He addressed the Alawite even in communiques yesterday. He addressed other minorities like the Kurds. They made connection with the YPG and the Syrian Democratic Forces in order to allow those Kurdish fighters that were still in Aleppo city and around it to go through the National Syrian Army areas all the way to the YPG areas. It did not materialize yet, but this is a big challenge actually for them. But also handling what the most important issue for them today as we speak is to be out of a terrorist classification.
Okay.
They want to get rid of this classification, and they are making their best, if I may say so, to get rid of it. And one of the latest communiques that Julani himself made was addressed to the Iraqi Prime Minister, telling him not to allow Shia militias or the Shia mobilization forces in Iraq to get into the fight in Syria, and asking him to stay away from this war, and that this war doesn't concern him, as he stayed away from the war between Iran and Israel, so the latest war. Meaning also this is also messaging to Israel from Julani. And he also addressed, and we'll end with this, the population of Hama, which is very symbolic for the Syrian revolution. And he told them, after 40 years of oppression, we are liberating you, and we hope that this liberation would come without a vengeance. Okay. So meaning he is trying to be as consensual as possible, and to get rid of this, through this, to get rid of the classification as a terrorist organization.
All right, fascinating. We'll see what happens. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Wassim Nasr for us there.